Channel 4 aired a brand new show on Tuesday night called Teens, and there's nothing that Matt and I love more than talking about teens of any age.
I think, though, they let us soundtrack this.
The soundtrack was super. I was like, yes! June! David Bowie!
I think the most contemporary tune on there was that White Stripes, We're Gonna Be Friends, which is from 2001.
Even that was, yeah.
There was Weezer, Buddy Holly, Blister in the Sun was on there.
Yeah,
Stay
somebody
Young by
in that
Oasis.
Production team had the coolest iPod.
Yeah,
that I would like to say. Yeah.
Modern Love by David Bowie was on there.
Buffalo Springfield was on there. Stop, baby, look this dance. I love the fact that when the teens were watching it, they probably had no idea what any of the music was.
But one of my only sort of quibbles with it was that surely if this was all about modern era teens, they should have had like a soundtrack with
bit of Pitbull,
bit of Jason Derulo, Taylor Swift, people like that. Rather
some Nico and Vince,
rather than like Jesus and Mary Chain.
It performed poorly, at least in the overnights, and I think that might be down to the fact that it wasn't really heavily advertised. There was a lot of confusion even from me about what this really was. I don't think they sold it overly well in any promotion they did do. There was two sort of plot lines being followed. There was Harry, who was struggling to get on with his GCSEs and trying to hide the fact. A-levels, a long time since I've been to school. A-levels, not a long time since I've seen the programme, annoyingly, but a long time since I've been to school. So he was struggling with his A-levels and trying to, not disappoint his parents. And then there was Jess, who was a twin, and she was sort of an activist in a way, and she was trying to prevent Page 3 models from continuing on in the newspapers.
The No More Page 3 campaign.
Basically, this follows these teens over a year of their lives, and bizarrely, when it aired was the 24th of March, and I think the events of the first episode were the 24th of March last year, I believe. So
I mean, this was originally going to be the last episode of the series as well.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, this will go episode 7. I don't know if there were 7 episodes. It was certainly going to be nearer the end of the series, but I think they moved it up after looking at all of the episodes because I think this one certainly has a very likeable lead.
It had somebody with something to say.
Yeah.
Which is not what we associate with these quote-unquote teen-focused documentaries before.
Even though, obviously, we're sort of almost a generation removed now from these teens,
Speak for yourself. I still listen to Modern Love by David Bowie and Jesus and Mary Chain. Speak for yourself.
There are still some things certainly I could relate to, when something happens and it's like when you're 17, it's like the biggest deal in the world.
It's the biggest thing in the world.
Yeah, like obviously she got all this backlash after the woman from the No More Page 3 campaign said something. Jess got all the backlash. I think what the documentary was trying to say is whereas, the gossip would eventually feed back to you maybe in a day or two, it's instantaneous now, and there's a lot more of it because of Twitter and other forms of, digital media and things like that.
I watched that making of thing that was on 4OD, and what they did was they gave them specially adapted phones, and in these phones, anything they shared with each other was immediately sent over to the, as you say, digital rig, and they were able to read everything, hear every conversation. So they had their phones taken off them for the duration of the filming, and these special phones given to them that fed everything. It's basically like Google, except it goes on telly.
Yeah, but, I think for the most part it sort of enhanced the overall sort of narrative of the episode. Occasionally it was used too much for my liking, I think, but
yes, it was a bit too distracting, and I think what drew me and what kept me in this was Jess's story.
Yeah, definitely.
If it was all about Harry's story, I didn't like the way he would sort of, I don't know what, again,
it was a bit of a stirrer.
It was a stirrer, yes.
There were people like that when I was at school and at college. But it's because of this new digital era and the messages and stuff. You had that whole thing about the way of sort of flirting now on social media and the...
Yeah, no, we should really give that a rest.
Once you get up to like direct messaging a girl, there's only a certain time before, you get a number and stuff like that. when I was at school, it was like
Nobody talked to you.
Exactly. Apart from that, no. But what I'm saying is, the only numbers usually was home phone numbers. So you got that thing about maybe ringing this girl up and one of her parents answering the phone.
Well, and maybe you didn't even pick up the phone because you were upstairs recording the charts onto cassette.
Yeah, and it got to that part in like 45 minutes in where you had to flip the tape over. Or you would miss number 33. We didn't get a lot of dates in school, guys.
No, we didn't, and you can see why.
I liked it a lot more than I thought I would, and especially, as you say, the soundtrack was amazing.
I know, I almost just want to tune in for the soundtrack, to be fair. I think it was refreshing as well, because, obviously, as I said, Jess has a twin brother, so it was nice to see their relationship.
It was nice to see, as well, teens who had a good relationship with their parents. I mean,
I know,
part of the story here was that Jessie's parents were on holiday while she was going through this, and she missed her it's not like, oh, I hate my mum and dad. It's like, I miss my mum and dad. I wish they were here so I could have another shoulder to cry on. There wasn't anything really sensationalist here. There wasn't teens going out getting drunk, and there was scenes of them drinking when Jess had an empty house and had friends round, but they weren't getting drunk. And I think that is more of an accurate representation of everyday teenagers.